Good evening, folks. How we doing? It is yet another Monday, which means, of course, it is CFN Live. Thanks for all who are joining us. We do know that the hockey game's on tonight, so we are going to lose, I'm sure, some of you along the way. We really appreciate you guys stopping in, guys and gals stopping in and saying hello. Even if you are watching hockey tonight, go Oilers, go. That's all I can say. It has been, if you love your hockey, you have been spoiled with the level of play in the last two games. Absolutely phenomenal. Probably one of the best Stanley Cups so far that I've seen. And as I said, we're only 2 games in. Series is all tied up, so we're hoping for some magic down in the wonderful state of Florida. Who thinks Edmonton's got it in them? I do. Who thinks Florida has it in them? I do. That's what's making it such a great series. It is Monday, which of course it means is a Monster Monday feature here on CFN. And one of the coolest videos that I've seen in a little while is this one that was shared by River Monsters. I just want to quickly share it with you guys. This is phenomenal footage. And the one takeaway that I'm sure all of you saw with that is, of course, the fish. It maybe diverts a little bit this way, a little bit that way. It knows exactly where to go, where that deep water is. And it found it, but what great footage that is. So thanks again to River Monsters for allowing us to share that. Of course, it is a Monday, and it wouldn't be apropos for me not to mention the fact that it is our 10th year anniversary. And of course, we do have swag available. Our good buddy Richard Dunlop, that's him, is doing a great job spreading out these hoodies and getting hats available. We are going to be doing a sticker run very soon, so keep up to date with us and keep in touch. We will be making announcements as we go forward. Of course, these are the jerseys that our good buddy Walt and Premier Dan Coates from Premier put together. Fantastic stuff. We were wearing these on the weekend at Jim's event. They breathe really, really well for a jersey. They look pretty good if you're not as big as I am, but I'll tell you this, they look really good on Steve, who was there on the weekend. Thanks so much, Steve, for wearing yours. It was awesome to see. We want to be quick, so I'm going to make a quick announcement. Of course, it is the 7th annual CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge, August 10th to 16th. Currently, we have 2 spots available. So if you are interested in joining us, please get a hold of Warren and Doris and be the last 2 to book. Those are the only 2 spots that are left. And of course, Monster Monday, it would not be typical without us mentioning our 4th annual OFC Nation retreat at Camp McIntosh. We're a little more than halfway there in terms of bookings. Love to have you with us. It's always a great returning group that comes. And by all means, please get a hold of Andre and Tracy if you are looking to get your butt booked in a bed. And then upcoming in the Wednesdays very soon, we will be talking a lot more about the North Channel Walleye Open. And of course, we will also, and we were hoping to talk about it tonight, the CFN Fish Off. Mike and I are going to be making a big announcement hopefully next week. Now, I am off starting Wednesday, right till Monday, heading up to the French River. Looking forward to it. I've got some high school buddies. We haven't been able to do it since COVID, but we're getting together with some high school buds that we've been doing it. It's been a tradition for us. We look forward to it every time we go. So I will be up at the French River. So Wednesday is a no, and I'm coming back on Monday. So we'll see what happens, but it looks like Monday won't be a go either. So Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, we'll see if we can get something lined up, not only for the Power Hour, but of course a CFN Fish Off announcement. So have a look, keep in tuned, have a watchful eye. We'll be making announcements on that. And I would say, you know what, to get going quickly, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to mention. We did have an event this past weekend, and our good buddy Jim and his lovely wife Tammy were our main hosts. But there was a collection of people that, if you haven't seen the video, we're going to play now, and then we'll be talking to the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin. Have a look. There he is, the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
Good, buddy. That was a great time on the weekend.
It was.
We only got not quite 40 kids. But it's. I was saying to a buddy of mine, I might have mentioned it to you too. When we started this here, we used to get 75, 80 kids sometimes, and I think they've all grown up, and there's no new kids in the neighborhood. Well, because I see all the kids here now, and they're all 15. They're all too cool now to come down and go fit. And I get that.
Well, I will say there will be a concerted effort to make sure that we do the proper advertising so that we can get some new meat, some new blood to show up at the Sealy Bay Kids Derby. But Jim, we mentioned and you were talking about it on the weekend. How many years you and Tammy been doing this now?
I think it was 12 now.
Unbelievable.
I think they did it the year before I got here, and it was really funny because I don't know if I've told you this before, but the guy that did it was moving, and he came to the door and he said, "Hey, you're the fishing guy, hey?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "So I'm moving. Here's the box for the kids fishing derby," and handed me a box.
Well, I will say there was not a kid that went away without a full bag of something. There was a lot of stuff there on the table, and I'll tell you, these kids, they knew exactly what to do, but they were, you had to coach them a little bit because they were blown away. Like, wait a minute, all this stuff is like, I could take this home. This is
I got a note from one of the parents saying how wonderful it was that the kids got stuff to take home, like the bag. So I thought that was really, really cool. That's a good idea. It works well.
100%. And it's a good idea to do it at the beginning, while kids are so in tune. Brilliant idea.
Like one of the other ladies wanted to do it at the end, that they could do that and get their.
Yeah.
I've been through that. They're all because that's the time that you got some of the little ones, they're rubbing up against you, licking the wall, ready to go home. They've had enough.
Exactly.
That's what it was. Yeah.
I
But
think
what's that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
no, but that was one of the big takeaways that a lot of the parents appreciated, was that the timing was perfect. Like it was just early enough, but yet late enough for kids to actually get there and show up, so that it wasn't a big rush. And then while you're out on the dock doing your fishing, they were happy that it didn't go any longer, because I mean, these parents, they got to be magicians at times.
Well, yeah, and like I said, 9 to noon, so they could start when they got there. And then at 11:20 or so, I said, hey, you want to round them up? And you went out and shouted them all down and got them up. So, because, it takes 15, 20 minutes to sort them out. And once again, there was little girls right up there in the top with the most tickets. And it was really funny. I got a note, the little girl that came second?
Yep.
I got a note from her dad, or actually her mom, telling me that she was so upset. She got home and she found about 10 tickets in her pocket.
No.
Yeah.
She was dedicated. I'm telling you, there was that young lad that came down with the glasses. He was focused. He actually walked by us as we were walking out of your place. That kid was like, he was ready to go right out of.
Remember the little guy there, the special little guy that won the Batman car?
Yep.
Or whatever it was, eh? And he was there again. He was a little bit older, and I had to shoo him away about 10 times. He's looking at the prizes. I says, get down there and catch fish. You can't win if you don't win. He says, yeah, but I don't want to win the big prize this year. He had a plan. Wow. He just wanted to watch, and he got what he wanted. He got this creature thing in a box. I don't know what it was.
Wild. That is so wild. Well, I had a chance to talk to Peter Lamard on the weekend as well, who was nice enough to show up and show support for this event. And how I tell you, my heart bled for him the weekend before with the weather that he was dealing with, but still managed to get a good number.
Oh, Peter Larman.
Larman, yes, sorry.
Yeah. He owns a big Rito Tackle. Anybody up that way? Got a great little tackle shop, lots of stuff.
Yeah, and I will say, it's. You guys are salts of the earth, both you and Peter, for what you do and what you continue to do. Both are in situations that, you could certainly do, and it'd be easier to do something else. But I will have to say, on behalf of Peter, and of course you as well, I was just blown away and honored to be rubbing shoulders with some of the volunteers at your event.
Yeah, what a great bunch of guys. You came from Brampton. The guys came from, let me see, those guys came from Ottawa. A couple from Trenton, one from Belleville, Niels from up in Petawawa.
Yep.
People came from all over the place. And the guy wrote me a note. One of the guys from the town group, the resident association, wrote me a note. He says, I was talking to some of those guys. I couldn't believe it, how far they came for this.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And they said they already, like the two young lads there that came there, that replaced the boys from Goldwing because they had to go to the Shimano thing out in Tackle Kingdom. They already want to come back next year, even if Peter and John are here, they want to come back anyway.
They were gems, absolute gem. I got a chance to talk with more Aiden and the other lad, but I'm telling you, salts of the earth, and I hope nothing but great things. They remind me, at least their behavior and how polite they were, a lot about very much like Cooper Gallant. Yeah. When I first met him, I was absolutely blown away at how polite.
Yeah, one of the boys called me after and said to me, he said, when you had everybody in the garage and you got to telling a couple of stories and stuff, I said, yeah. And he said, you gave them the old jackal hats, the original ones and all that. And I said, yeah. He said, they were just in their glory.
You could tell.
Yeah.
You could absolutely tell. But
it's cool.
Yeah, go blue, buddy. You are always a gem. And I think Neil's been there right from the very get-go, has he not?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that means a lot to me. It's hard for me to do it now. I used to be the one on the dock putting the worm on the hook.
Yeah.
And it's just not there anymore. I had a hard time on the weekend. As you know, I used a cane all day today.
I bet.
I didn't use the cane there on Saturday because I'm still getting used to it. It's not easy to, like I've said to you before, when you know the feeling, Scottie, when you're the big guy in the group, it's all wait till Jim gets here, he'll move it, or you know, whenever there was a fight, everybody stood behind you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing, and now you have to use a cane and that. But all these guys here, my heart goes out to all those guys because it wouldn't happen without them. It would happen, it just wouldn't be as good.
I completely agree. Completely agree. And as I said, dude, I think the best takeaway for me was not just the smiles, not just how cool your volunteers are, but what you said to me on the way down. We went for a bit of a drive after the event, and you had said, you know what, I got to drive out to Ottawa, and I got to drive back. And normally I would sort of dread that time. And what did you say to me? I'm going to have no problem because of what happened here today.
Yeah, I was just in a happy mood. Now I did something very strange because I left. Well, I was with here to you till what, about 1:30?
Yep.
Because we went and looked at that house and that,
Yep.
came back, and then well, no, I'll tell you another time. But I went looked at, so I went to Smith Falls. I went to the police station. I dropped some stuff off there for a kid. I went from there. I went over to a store by Manatik, Dan's place, and I picked up some jigs and dropped him off some more jigs and stuff that he needed. Then I went and grabbed some stuff for Tammy in Ottawa, and I came home. I got home at like 6:30. I ate dinner. I went to bed at 7:30, and I got up 3:00. Hung out for a couple hours on the Space Channel.
Wow.
And I went back to bed, and I did something very, very not me. As I got up and I looked at the clock, and it was 5 to 9.
Did you go back to bed?
No, that was when I woke up.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm like, holy smokes.
5:30.
I can't believe you slept in that long, but now I would have thought you turned around, went right back to bed.
I went back to bed it was about 5:30 because it was light out. Wow. And then I figured I'd sleep for an hour or something, you know, and I looked at the clock and it was 5 to 9, like yikes.
Good for you, buddy.
Driving around, I told you about when we went by South Lake there.
Mm-hmm.
I said to you, that's where you usually see all the snapping turtles around that post.
Yeah.
So I went down to get gas this morning. Come on. Am I not going to get it right angle? See it? Oh. See the one? See, there's a turtle on
the black thing by your finger. Yeah. Is that the turtle?
Yeah, there's actually 3. There's one on each side, and there's one behind it. And I actually wonder if you can see it from further. Wonder why it won't show.
I don't know. This is the first time it hasn't been able to.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and there's another one actually behind the pole. You can't see straight in line with it. Yeah. But see the one out by the road there?
Yes.
I actually sat and watched. I saw eggs fall out of her into the hole.
No way.
You could see just the way she was sitting at the edge of the curb when she dug it out, eh? That was really, really cool. So that's a first for me with my turtles.
And another first for all of us, which was when it was crossing the road at your event.
Oh, the painted turtle.
I would have thought for sure was a snapping turtle. And right away
picked up, yeah.
Big keen-eyed Bob McMillan. He's like, no, that's a painter's turtle. I'm like, what? That size? It was the size of like a
I have never in my life, and I spent my whole life scrounging shorelines. Come out, wherever you are. Look at the size of that painted turtle.
Just a little bit closer, Jim. Yeah. Yeah, you could just sort of make it out there in front of Bob's belly. That's a massive painted turtle.
I tell you, I have never seen one close to that size.
No.
I left a note for a guy that I knew in Ottawa whose dad used to work at the National Museum in Ottawa. There, he was not a curator, but he was in charge of one department, and it was turtles and stuff like that. And I left a note for him. See if he'll get back to me. I left a note at work, but I don't know if his dad's retired or not. But I was going to ask him about, like, you know, he'd know, like what's a giant painted turtle or not. You know, is that a big one or not? But that's what I was going to say before too, Scottie. You know, when you see those kids down there, I don't really care whether there's 20 or 100. When you see the smiles,
yeah,
even if there's 10 or 5,
yeah,
I'll still do it because it's worth it to see 5 kids that happy, and even the parents. And I'm shocked at how many parents come and say thank you to you.
Yep.
You know, that's just really, really cool to me. So it was no, it was another great success.
All in all, a great time. One other takeaway that was sort of offshoot from the actual event was we had the ramp right in front of us. And one other thing that I think needs to be said a little bit more often, of course, is the need to clean your trailers.
Yeah.
We had spotted, of course, and you're more aware of it than any of us, the amount of scum that is now on top of our waterways.
I couldn't
And
believe where that came from this year so fast. Like you saw it in the drone shots.
yeah,
That's as much as you usually have by the middle of July.
that's crazy.
So they're going to have to come with that weed chop machine this year and clean that up. Because if not, you won't be able to use the bay here.
Yeah,
It's
I
amazing.
can't imagine what that's going to look like in August.
Because I had a memory come up this morning on my phone, and I was fishing like that night back then, the same date, and I made the comment when I posted about how there wasn't quite enough slop yet to really use a frog, and now there's almost too much.
There's too, yeah,
Like happened last year, it gets so thick. I mean, I caught them with the jig last year. I'd watch when the mat would move because they'd come up to try to get the frog, and they wouldn't go through. And I'd
it's
take out
thick.
1 ounce sinker, throw it 30, 40 feet in the air, let it go through, and they were right there. They were ready to eat. They wanted to kill something,
Yeah,
but they were, yeah.
incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Also, something that you mentioned, which is a great picture, and I love how it's featuring a kayak angler, but of course the entire line of SLX reels. Tell us a little bit about the bait casters and which ones. If you're an entry level, do you buy that one, or do you go straight to the DC, or is there one in between that you might suggest?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like obviously, like the 70 is a size deal.
Yeah,
And for me, a 70, like there's a regular SLX. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So the 70 is just too small for me. My favorite one is the XT. I ordered them last year. You can see them behind me. I got, or for this year, I got 3 or 4 of them sitting there. You can see the whole row of them there at the side. There's a
mm-hmm.
whole row of them there. So I didn't need that. So I picked
Good for the blooper roll.
roll. It's all good. That's why they make plastic picture frames now.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I've got this. It's I really like them, and I always go for high speed on my reels because I'd like to think that I'll govern myself, turn the handle slower if I need to go slower, but if I need the speed, if I have a regular reel with the lower, I can't get enough.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I have all the speed there, and if I need it, I just turn the handle slower. It's that simple. And basically the prices on the mount. If you're just wanting to get in and start, the plain old SLX, the original one, is still a deal. I still have some rods here with them on them. And if you got a couple extra bucks to spend, it's not that much. Excuse me. If you're new to bait casting, the DC is always nice because it helps you a little bit with casting.
Yes, it gives you a little bit of forgiveness when it comes to backlash.
So this thing that fell off the table there, this is a little picture I have here.
Oh,
That's me with Isabel. She brought this to me,
oh wow.
and that's Isabel. That's Jeff Dick's little girl.
Nice.
It came there. They brought that sits on my desk. There's things that are special to me, and this one's really starting to pass the test of time. It's been up there for over a year now, and it's staying. And speaking of Jeff, it was so nice of him to come out. He brought a lot of stuff from Limestone Lures for all the kids. That's his stuff there. We're all set to go next year already. Actually, the stuff that I got there will probably go out at the casting pond in Ottawa next year. But he's got a new bait called the Deputy, and this isn't just you hear me talk about this stuff all the time about guys just buy a mold, the thing. So he had this made, and it's basically like a cross. So you can see it. It's an open pore mold, so it's not injected. It pours in flat, but it looks like it looks like it has a swim bait body.
Yeah.
I think it is, but it's got more like what you would consider a drop shot tail because it's flat. So that to me is like a really, really cool looking bait. It's something that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different. I haven't seen that before, so you can check him out. But yeah, he just had a couple of sample packs. As I said, I don't have any of those. And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, nobody gave me. I don't have, whatever." But
Do you
not
know?
that I use a lot, but I got a couple. And he's got some nice, good walleye colors and stuff like that too.
Beautiful stuff.
But I think
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get a pink shirt this year, and when I fish, everything I fish with is gonna be pink.
Why not?
Crankbaits. I'm gonna find pink line. I'm gonna fish with everything I own is gonna be pink.
Why
If
not?
it works for Lee Livesey, it can work for me. God knows that.
If it can work for Lee, it can work for me.
Mark LaBelle just sent me a bunch of pink chatterbaits.
There you go. We're
So
going to
yeah,
be talking about that. Yes,
The-
there's I'm so glad. That's a great segue of what we're going to talk about. Before we move on, Jeremy was asking a question about the SLX reels. Which one is best for pike? I would imagine the XT.
Yeah, probably just the XT a little bit easier to cast. You're probably going to fish with slightly bigger lures, so they're not as hard to catch. You can tighten down the cast control a little bit, so you're not going to get a backlash. But that's really all you need, because it comes down to if you're going to be fishing for pike and bigger fish like that, you might look at using like an extra heavy rod or something. And the SLX casting rods are fine. I even have, well, you saw the pile here.
Yeah.
I put some Celis rods in there again this year. The year that are new, I had given them away to kids last year, or events or things at the end of the year. So I got a couple of new ones there to use. And I use all the different lines. Like you hear me talk about it all the time. I got the $800 rod with the $139 reel on it, and then I've got the $68 rod with the $750 reel on it. That stuff like that. It's just.
100%. They do have them, Jeremy. Wear a pink Shimano jersey. They do exist. I know that. I don't know if we could find one for Jim, but needless to
What's
say,
that supposed to mean?
well,
Is that availability or size?
no,
Keep digging.
I am literally
Keep digging, Martin.
Oh, and that's the end of our show.
You're
Jim,
out of here.
Speaking of chatterbaits, I know you love your chatterbaits, but this is something, and I guess I've never thought of it because it's not something that I use a lot of, but I know you do, and you can really appreciate this. Matt Stefan Fishing, popular tournament angler down in the States, came up with something that I didn't even think of when it came to the skirt, but also what happens when you take the skirt off. Have a listen to Matt.
Skirts on the bait, when you're retrieving it, it really creates drag, and it prevents that bait from darting side to side as much as it possibly could. Now, there are lots of really good benefits to a skirt. It bulks up your bait, creates a good minnow flare. It creates, it's really natural. And in dirty water, it creates bigger bulk. It creates a better object for the fish to key in on. When the fish bites it, that additional plastic, when they suck it in, allows that bait to get sucked into their mouth better. Lots of really good reasons to throw a skirted vibrating jig. Now, I'm not saying you should never throw a skirt. I throw a skirted vibrating jig more than half of the time. But when you take that skirt off and you're running just your favorite plastic, you'll find that your vibrating jig will really dart side to side more than it would with a skirt on it. And that just has to do with the drag of the skirt and how much more streamlined this bait is. You'll find it more drastic with straight tail baits like a fluke, or just a straight tail minnow that doesn't have any sort of kicker on the back. And that just allows the bait to dart back and forth. It also allows the bait to fall faster when you kill it, which is a good reaction strike generator when you're doing that. So, if you kill a skirted vibrating jig, that bait will slow volley. When you kill it with just the plastic on the back, it'll really dart much faster to the bottom.
So what I got out of that was both are really good, and make sure you have both in your tackle box.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked about chatterbaits in my seminars at the shows this year, and I went over the basic thing that I'm a skirt guy. I like skirts.
Mm-hmm.
When I fish, I wish I had. I don't know where the stuff is from the show. Damn. But I talked about when I fish for pike and stuff like that, I don't use a skirt. I use just a bigger swim bait on it. Generally, shallower water with that type of stuff, I'm targeting. You would be targeting them early, like right now. Now would be even getting late. I would have been talking back in May. When they first, when they just start to eat again after having spawned, because they spawn so early. But basically, what I said in the seminar when I did it was that if you're fishing in shallow water, you want to use something like a rhythm weight, like a boot tail at the back, some type of a swim bait. And then if you're fishing in deeper water, and this is what I had with me, you fish with that. That's a Z-Man chatterbait. That's an ounce and a quarter, right? That's the ones I got Corey to send me. They're huge, so I want to try them in deeper water so I can still reel them quickly. And that's a Z-Man plastic on the back, and you can see it's a really neat little tail.
Yeah, that is
the way it's segmented, and of course, because it's made out of 3X, it doesn't rip off. But it's got the straight tail at the back, so there's no drag. Well, there's less drag than if you had the swim bait at the back, not knocking around. It will sink a lot faster, and if I'm looking to fish deep water, then I want to use that to keep it down there. So yeah, basically exactly the same thing. We're sharing just a different way.
100%.
I like skirts. I've always been a big guy on skirts, and yet it's a funny thing, but a spinnerbait. I've done it so many times too to prove things. I went out and fished with spinnerbaits with no skirts on them, and caught the heck out of fish.
Right?
Yeah, I've had days where I've just crushed them, and I have to agree with so many guys that are much better fishermen than me that when they talk about the important part of a spinnerbait is the blade, not the skirt or the color. I heard Al Linder say that once years ago, and that's why years ago when I used to have a lot of time to fish, and I did fish 125 days a year, it was I would go out and do things like that. I'd go out and I'd take a spinnerbait, pull the skirt off it, fish with it all day, and at the end of the day, you caught 37 fish, and the next day you go out with one with a skirt and catch 10. So there was really no rhyme or reason to it, but I was always a firm believer that the blades, and he talked about that, the flash, the vibration. That's why you'll see these guys carry so many different spinner baits with different blade configurations on them. It can make a difference. Standard, I would say, shallow water, Colorado. If you want to fish really fast, willow leaves, because they come through the water easier. Willow leaves in clear water, Colorado's in murky water, or less than clear water, because when you're fishing in clear water, flash is generally more important. But if you're over top of a really heavy milfoil bed, say you got milfoil in 8 feet of water and you got 2 feet of open water over top, you might fish a little slower over the top of that, so the Colorado blades with lots of noise get the fish to come up and get it. And it's all these little things that you have to experiment with that make you become a successful fisherman. And if you take the time to do it,
100%,
it definitely works.
Richard, you read my mind, my friend. Yeah, Neil has said what we all wanted to say. We all knew that you like skirt, and Jay is begging us to keep it down. Obviously, either we're talking about something that he uses and lays claim to, and is obviously a confidence bait for him. But I will say this: to be a little bit like Ron McLean, a good day of fishing ends better with a great skirt at night. Jim, as always, my friend, thanks so much for your time. I know you're busy. You got a lot of things to get caught up.
You know what I've been up to too, and I don't know. I just started to do it out of the blue the other night. I was back here later. I couldn't sleep, and I started putting together a bunch of football jigs for smallmouth with hair instead of rubber. Put together some dirty looking stuff to drag along the bottom. And then I took some great big punching or swim jigs, did the same type of thing with them with hair.
Well, there's one guy I know who is keeping up with all of the links right now, our good buddy Steve Shaw, who cannot wait for bass season to open. And
I saw the giant sunfish he caught.
Dude, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant post. Brilliant post. Love
his arms must be like 16, 18 feet long.
Well, he's certainly stronger than we give him credit for.
He's like Inspector Gadget. His arm just keeps going.
Yeah. And now I see why he needs a pickup.
We missed you on the weekend, buddy.
Absolutely. How do we get that bluegill home without a pickup truck? So I
want to put him in the back here and hope that he breeds with the ones here, and they'll all be like that here next year. I'll have to flip for panfish.
Absolutely.
Where's
Well,
Jim?
Jim,
She'll be going across the water on the lawn chair.
that's so funny. We will bid you farewell. As I said, next Monday, it's hit or miss whether we will have a show just because I'll be returning from the French. I'll be thinking of you the whole weekend, my friend. But get some rest and stay classy.
Enjoy with your buddies, eh, pal?
I can't wait, dude. I can't wait.
I know you were telling me about that, and that's cool. Stuff like that's good. You need to do it.
100%. Absolutely. All the best, Jim. Thanks so
Be
much,
good, guys.
time,
Be safe out there.
You take care. We got Lawrence coming up right after a word from our sponsor. There he is, my man, Lawrence Gunther. How you doing tonight, Lawrence?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you?
Fantastic, my friend. Fantastic. Did you get out and enjoy some of that wonderful weather this weekend?
I did for sure. Yeah, it was good. Now it's gotten all cold and wet again. So, it is what it is. But the mosquitoes are huge. That's for sure.
100%. 100%. It is. It's going to be different. I will say this weekend that we go up, the water's high, the bugs are hungry. I'm just hoping the fish are too. But I will say, you have a bunch of buddies that you fish with and you would have annual trips with, I'm assuming. Obviously you look forward to them, but are you still doing that? Are you still getting together with your buddies?
Yeah, although now I rope them into volunteering on projects, so more work, less fishing for now. But that'll come to an end. We're just putting the big push on, to get the exploration center all readied up. So that's sort of dominating. That's priority number one. But we still sneak out and do some fishing. That's for sure. I can't not go fishing, right? Need to break once in a while.
Well, this is it. At the end of the day, we do so much for the fishing industry and the community at large, and I think the community also would like to see us get out and enjoy ourselves as well. So every once in a while that we're able to do that, let's take the opportunity. Let's do it. Let's freaking do it. I wanted to start with something that was shared by our good buddy Dave Clark, and on his page, the Toronto Urban Ambassador. Let's try that again. All right. So this is a video that David Clark shared on his page, the Toronto Urban Fishing Ambassadors. It is a drone, Lawrence. This drone is basically at the foot of the Don River. I believe this is the Don River, and it's going around and cleaning up like you have those vacuum cleaners that run around your Roombas or Rombas or whatever.
Yeah.
This is very similar to that, but it's a boat. It's on the water, and it is going around and cleaning up what is a mess of stuff on the surface. I love it because it's doing what needs to be done. Now, of course, it's limited because it's about what would you say the size of this is? Maybe a large computer screen, and maybe has the depth of a 2x4. But it's obviously got a hopper inside that collects all the garbage as it goes around in circles. Obviously, there's more than one because there's two in this video. But I want to thank David and his crew for sharing this, because it's nice to see that some work is being done. And I know, Lawrence, this is something that is near and dear to your heart.
Oh, it is. And there's all sorts of AI coming in, artificial intelligence, and some really cool, remotely operated or even independently operated technologies. Like I heard about a water sampling device. It's made out of fish meal. So it's biodegradable and edible by fish. It's shaped like a tiny little motorboat. It's propelled with a little gas release system, so it mixes some organic products together that cause a gas bubble to shoot out the back of the little motorboat, so it can move around. It's got a few little built-in sensors. That's the only part that's not biodegradable, but they're micro sensors. They're very tiny, and they release information, somehow through radio waves or something. So this thing cruises around in the water, gets all sorts of data, transmits it, and then when the gas wears out and the propelling stops, it just sinks to the bottom and fish eat it. It's a food source for fish. So there's no waste left behind. There's no detritus. There's no garbage left on the bottom of the river or the lake. And they're thinking that, at some point, they'll, instead of a little boat shape, they'll shape it in the shape of a small minnow, and you'll have this as a bait on your bait hook. So instead of a live minnow in a place where you can go into places that don't allow live bait, and you can use this and emulate a live minnow to the point where it'll smell like a live minnow, it'll look like a live minnow, it'll move around like a live minnow on the end of your hook or your drop shot weight or under your bobber, and fish will chomp it down. So it's pretty cool. I mean, there are some of these technologies already available for large freshwater game fish, but they're super expensive. You put them inside a dead fish and they bring it back to life and make it look alive again. But this could be an inexpensive way, a less expensive way to emulate live bait. So it could be interesting.
Well, and you know what, you brought up a great example. So we've all seen that. I think it looks very similar to a pen, but as soon as you click it on, it's like a window washer. It goes back and forth to make the tail look alive, and your dead bait can, as you mentioned, look live and start swimming around. But I often thought about that. Okay, well, let's say it breaks off and that fish is now in the mouth, throat, or wherever of fish, and that's all plastic and metal. That's not going to decompose anytime soon. No. This, on the other side of things, is a great remedy for that problem. Holy smokes.
Yeah, can you imagine? You have a little. You can match the hatch exactly, to the forage that the fish are feeding on, and it's a fully natural way. It's even if it gets off and the fish get away, it got a free meal, no harm done, right? Except you're out a few bucks for the bait, but whatever. It's. I mean, look at the price of Senkos these days. They're not getting any cheaper either. So.
But bro, talk about like just having the forethought to think of something like that to make sure that obviously the goal was to make a fish look lively, but also to allow it to decompose and actually be ingested and decompose in the body of a fish.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And Jeremy, you're bang on. I saw them on Temu as well. Those exact baits that were, or the devices that we're talking about that just allow the tail to move back and forth. But
and
so
they're not.
Is this available in Canada now, Lawrence?
Not yet. The scientific probe sensor it's being used now. So for collecting water sample data, but they figure the fishing industry will tune into this pretty quick, and someone in the fishing industry is going to latch onto this technology and shape it. Without any sensors in it, hey, it'll just become a mobile, dead bait. It'll be interesting.
Wow. Okay, well, I love that kind of that thinking outside the box, if you will. That is brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing those available, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks like Jeremy that like to use as close to live bait as possible in pike fishing. This is up in your abilities and skills a little bit, I'd say, having that kind of apparatus available. That's really cool stuff. Now, I know you probably have a plethora of stuff that you want to share off the Blue Canada News, Bluefish Canada News, as well as some of the stuff that you're doing yourself behind the scenes. Have at her, brother.
Well, you're talking about getting out with your friends fishing. Russell Arundel, he was a Canadian angler, and he bought an island off the coast of Nova Scotia. He was out there fishing for blue fin tuna. The water got really rough, so he sought protection behind the lee of this island, and the island was just a pile of rock. It was nothing special. Anyways, he thought, isn't it interesting? I wonder if I'm the only angler that ever took refuge behind this rocky island. Anyways, he got to talking about it over some drinks, and he bought the island. in 1949 for not much money. And then he started a volunteer group to come out, and they built an actual cabin on the island. They brought over all the material, built a cabin, put a wood stove in there. So if in case someone, had a shipwreck or needed to get off their boat, they would have a safe place to get out of the storm.
No way.
And then he named the island. He drew up a charter. He drew up he actually petitioned the United Nations to recognize the island. And he actually got this thing almost identified as a independent nation, right? And the government of the United States government went along with it. It recognized it because it made it into the news. And the USSR, the communist government at the time, right? The USSR, they said, "Isn't this crazy? Look at these Americans. They're so out of touch. They're so out to lunch." And they made this big stink about this rich, Canadian who bought an island to turn into a fish camp, and how ridiculous that was. This USSR, it made it into the media. They were taking it seriously. So the United States doubled down on it, and they recognized this island as a sovereign nation just to piss the Russians off. And it went on for years, right? It went on for years. And eventually the USSR, they were going to go to war against the island. And it kept evolving politically. And he adopted a navy, and all his fishing buddies became admirals in the navy. And
oh my!
You can read the whole article in the Outdoor Canada magazine. It's a wonderful article to read. What people get up to, right? Before social media, they had just used their imagination and a few drinks and their buddies to come up with these crazy ideas and actually implement it. He turns out he was a real conservationist himself. He did a lot of work. He ended up selling the island to a conservation organization. And, he really was an angler, loved fishing, loved conservation, and loved a good scandal, just Russell Arundel. So there's a good article to read in Outdoor Canada magazine.
You have to, honestly, folks, this story sounds absolutely incredible. And to have the ability to follow through. At what point did he finally wave the white flag and say, "Please, don't invade"? At some point,
never. He never did.
He never did.
He just kept doubling down. And I think it was in the maybe 20 years ago that he passed away, and his family ended up selling the island, I think, or donating. And I can't remember all the details. You have to read the article. But he every time the Russia came out against it and with more propaganda about how ridiculous these people are, he would double down again with another crazy policy and more idiocy. And oh my God, it was absolutely hilarious.
Pumpkins for cojones. Holy smoke.
Absolutely. Going right up against the USSR and with his buddies.
Okay, well, listen, my buddies are nuts, but they're not that crazy, thankfully. And even if I were to suggest to do something like that, I know at least one of the four of us would have the mindset to say, you know what, this doesn't seem like a really good idea.
Not now that we know that the Russians can give nuclear tea drinks to people in other countries and kill them off, as they please, which they have been doing. We saw that in the news enough times now.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Unreal. Yes, the world. This is why we come here, and what we do stuff like we did on the weekend with Big Jim and the kids to remind us that there are still good things going on in this world, that it's all not going to hell in a handbasket. Jeremy had a question of our last story. I never thought to ask this. Great question, Jeremy. Would these sensors that you put in the fish that you talked about that are biodegradable, would they be able to track fish once they were ingested by the fish? Would they have any?
Yeah, I think once they're off the surface, they can't transmit anymore. I think they only transmit on the surface. So these little boats, these little mini boats, move along the surface of the water, picking up samples using the miniature probes, and then transmit it to. I'm not sure how they do it, through satellite or so on. I never got into too much technical detail, or it wasn't in the article. And then when they run out of fuel, that's when they sink. And the sensors are just micro sensors, so it's the fish can swallow it and pass the little sensors, and they just end up as little tiny pebbles on the bottom of the ocean. So
interesting.
no harm done. Yeah. Yeah. So
Well, listen, I mean, we could almost wrap up your segment with that story, but what else do you have? Holy
well,
smokes.
okay. So National Geographic came out with a documentary called Oceans, and it's Sir David Attenborough, the famous American or British activist on all things environmental. And what they did is they rigged up cameras in front of a dragger. The ones that drag the bottom for fish and other creatures, right, for harvesting. These giant nets that bounce along the bottom of the ocean, and they actually attach cameras on the ropes so they could film the front of the net and what was going into the net. And they wanted to see what's going into these nets. And what they noticed was the sea creatures were fleeing for their life. The fish were swimming their little hearts out, trying to get out from the net. Everything, crabs, everything was trying to get out of the path of this oncoming net. And you see these creatures just scrambling for their life. And the ones that fail end up getting into the back of the net and just crushed to death. And the other ones, manage, and a lot get away. But the destruction on the bottom of the ocean is captured in real time. They lost 2 cameras filming this, but they managed to have enough cameras that survived and got enough amazing footage that this is the talk of the town right now. So watch Oceans. It's put out by National Geographic. I'm not sure where you can watch it, but it's got to be on some streaming service somewhere.
Yeah.
And check that out and get your family.
The ads for it, the trailers. There was a segment of it that was flashing around on social media as well. And I have to say, I mean, obviously it's easy for us to judge, but to your point, regardless of what it does to put fear into the fish, the thing that has to be addressed is what it does to the bottom. I mean, any living organism, whether it be coral or a fish, crab, crustacean, what have you.
Yeah.
There's nothing left. Like it's literally like going out and cutting a lawn. That's what it reminded me of, or plowing a field. Like everything's just devastated. So there's got to be a better way.
I was on a small trawler in the North Sea. I was 12. My brother was 14, and my grandmother managed to get us a shift on the boat. We left, I think, at 2 a.m, came back at 5 p.m, and it was dragging 2 nets, and they were bottom bouncers, bottom draggers. They were catching shrimp, and the amount of stuff that we brought in, they would swing the bottom of the net and open the bottom of the net, dump it on the deck, and we would shovel it into a sifter. And the small shrimp would go to the bottom into a box, and everything else would fly off the side of the sifter. And then we were responsible for shoveling all that back off the side of the boat over back into the ocean. And pretty much everything was dead. Everything was dead. And just the amount of life that we shoveled off that boat back into the ocean that was dead compared to what we brought home in, a half dozen wooden boxes of shrimp for the 10, 12 hours we spent on the ocean was just astounding. It was just astounding how much life we destroyed. And we were bringing up coral. We were bringing up, amber, a giant chunk of amber we found. And it's just absolutely crazy what the things these nets pick up.
Corey, I'm with you. I mean, unfortunately, it would really devastate our shrimp commercial boats if we took stuff like this away. But at the end of the day, these drag nets, Corey's saying they should be illegal. I have to say I don't disagree, just based on the devastation. But again, I'm not as informed as some. Maybe there is no better way to commercially fish certain delicacies, certain types of fish that we enjoy. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I do know what I saw. And I'm sure if everybody sees it, they'll feel the same as Corey does, that perhaps it should be something that is ixnayed from existence.
They say that the video is very compelling.
It's unbelievable. And I only saw a small snippet. Steve was nice enough to share the link so folks can go and have a look at it. As I said, you only have to watch about 10, 15 seconds of that thing dragging across the bottom to see the devastation that it caused. And the fact that, it's been dragged once many times before. So nothing has a chance to grow. It's just one big bowl or bathtub of sand is really what's left.
Just crushed life. Yeah. Nothing's growing down there. Yeah.
100%.
So,
What else you got for us?
okay, so the Yukon River is in trouble for another year in terms of salmon returns. So the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and Coast Guard Canada have determined that there can be no salmon harvesting on the Yukon River, on the Canadian stretch of the river again. And this includes normally, commercial fishing goes, recreational fishing ends first, is the first thing to be canceled, recreational fishing, then commercial fishing, then with that, commercial fishing for Indigenous people as well. And then the last thing that's allowed is usual, substance fishing by First Nations fishers for food, ceremonial or social. And now that's closed too. So there's no one's allowed to fish for anything, for any reason. No one allowed to fish for salmon on the Yukon River this year.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
And that is like, it's okay. As our good buddy Chevy Chase would say, the almighty miss, the old dame, the Yukon River may not be as I want to say as popular as the Mississippi River. The Yukon is just as big, maybe not as long, but just as mighty, and it holds a variety of species of fish that are so important, not only to the economy, but to the way of life out there. You mentioned First Nations, sea mammals, and other sea organisms. It's sad to hear. I still can't believe it, Lawrence. I don't know where your head's at, but I still can't believe that we're talking about salmon being an endangered species in some areas of our West Coast. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, especially up in the far north, where we see other salmon populations expanding into new rivers that are opening up with glaciers melting. This is all brand new salmon habitat, and salmon are finding this habitat. And then you got the Yukon River, right? And the Yukon River is just struggling so much. Like, what the hell is going on with the Yukon River? It makes no sense that this river, one of the longest rivers in North America, is struggling so badly. Like, where the hell, who's catching all these fish or preventing the fish? It just makes no sense. Is it illegal fishing happening? Is it the fish being intercepted in the mouth of the, I don't know. Someone's got to come clean, and someone's got to say something about why this river is struggling so badly.
And I think, with these flotations that they have now, where they've been rearing fish from an aquacultural standpoint, now that these are starting to be eliminated, hopefully we start to see a rebound, because we can definitely contribute or attribute a lot of the loss to these flotillas of disease. But, once they're gone, let's hope that Mother Nature can find a way to revitalize what has been lost. Because I'm telling you, the thought of the Yukon River not having a strong run of salmon to the point where it's now closed.
Yeah, for everything. I mean, that's the ultimate. That's
hard
the ultimate.
to believe.
Yeah. So here's a good news story about Garmin. Did you know Garmin was a founding member of the Whale and Vessel Safety Task Force? Garmin is a founding member of the Whale and Vessel Safety Task Force.
Wow.
And so this is a group of scientists and industry leaders and government saying, what can we do to prevent vessels from striking whales? How can we avoid vessel strikes, in terms of whales, right? This is a big problem with big ships and whales, it just doesn't go well together. I mean, I remember I was at the Long Bay Aquarium in Los Angeles, and that day a giant freighter came in and splayed on the bow of that ship was a big whale, a big humpback whale. It was pinned to the front of the ship, dead. It T-boned it. It T-boned the whale and just came right into the harbor. Didn't even know it was pushing a whale in front of it until people pointed it out and said, hey, Captain, you got a big whale stuck on your bow, kind of thing. You T-boned it. So this happens a lot. So Garmin is came up with this new system now, and it allows anyone who is identified whales in an area can automatically transmit the location of that whale to anyone else using a Garmin system or a compatible system over the satellite communications. And I'm thinking, now this is interesting, whether it's satellite or GPS, where the communication device is flexible. We're always hearing in British Columbia, the recreational angling community says, we know there's a southern resident orca pod or killer whale pod in South British Columbia that's, we need to stay away from so they can feed without noise and without interruption. And why can't we have a moving sort of safety zone around these whales and have that moving safety zone transmitted to the recreational fishing community so they don't have to, you don't have to declare the entire bay or the entire part of that ocean as a no-go zone. You just have to have a no-go zone, a perimeter around these feeding whales.
Interesting.
And this type of technology makes that totally doable, right? You just need one boat captain to notify where the whales are, where they're moving, and everyone in the area can get this message and say, okay, well, here's where they are. Here's the perimeter we need to move out to, to be out of their way, and they'll do it. The recreational fishing community has been arguing this for this type of technology to be implemented for a number of years now. Garmin has made this technology as a downloadable resource for they call it automatic identification systems, AIS. So it's all automated, right? So it's pretty cool technology.
That is cool, and hopefully it's used for the reasons that it should, and not just for someone to, maybe cash in their quota and say, I'm going to go whale watching now. Or I'm going to
use it reverse. Yeah.
That would be something that I'd hate to hear of. But I'm sure, let's face it, there's always perverse ways of using technology. Before we let you go, Jeremy's been hinting at this with a couple posts and questions. He wanted Jim to talk about what he thought about bass stocking. But Jeremy has read something that we shared, I think about 2 or 3 shows back, in regards to the money that the MNR are going to be pumping into 3 specific hatcheries to increase the amount of stocking that is going on. And one of the species that they're going to increase, of course, is bass, walleye, trout, and various other salmon species. And I'm not sure what else that they're going to be pumping out in larger quantities. But let's just say this influx of money into the aquaculture industry, whether private or public, is certainly a good step in the right direction. More fish, more the merrier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. These fish alive in the lake can bring in a lot more money than in a net somewhere, sold on in a grocery store. When you have big fish and lots of big fish, you bring in tourists. And they'll catch that fish and let it go, and catch that fish and let it go, and you can make a lot of money. And so it's a proven economic generator. And if people want to bring these fish home too, bring some fish home to eat with their family, then that's doable too, right? It's put and take. Is it a put and take fishery? Is it a fishery to restore wild fish stocks? I think hatcheries can do, and there's lots of evidence and lots of First Nations communities and other communities using hatcheries to restore wild fish stocks in their native rivers and lakes and so on, using local fish species with the correct DNA and not bringing in other fish with different DNA. And but when other people are using it to say, hey, look, let's put fish in here that we can catch and harvest, and there's space that's available. Let's do it. And so I think you can have both. You absolutely can have both.
I couldn't agree more. What have you got upcoming this week, Lawrence?
Oh, we got the students starting. So we've got a new program development coordinator starting today. So we spent the day together mapping out the rest of her summer, what that's going to look like in terms of projects. Our new outdoor guide, she'll be starting next Monday. And the Bluefish Explorer went into the water last week for its initial trial runs. So we're now fitting her up with the boat up with all the sonar technology that we've been gathering over the winter. And that boat, we're just identifying a suitable slip. We had one in mind, and there's a few that we rejected, but I think we've got a good one now that's going to meet our needs perfectly on the Ottawa River. But this boat, the Explorer, will be moving around as well. It'll be on the Ottawa River mostly, but it'll be on the St. Lawrence as well, and in other water bodies. It's we're looking forward to getting more information about that. So stay tuned to hear more about the Bluefish Explorer.
Right on. Look forward to it. As always, Lawrence. Again, I will suggest the same thing as I did, Jim. Make sure you get your rest, my friend. I know you're going 100 miles an hour to try and keep up, and truly, once this is all built and people start enjoying it, your efforts are going to be truly appreciated. But just so you know, we also think of you and worry about you and making sure that you're looking after yourself as well.
Hey, last thing I'll mention is tomorrow we have a lawyer with 35 years of experience advocating for water quality on the Great Lakes. Mark Madsen, he's the founder of Swim Drink Fish Canada and former Lake Ontario waterkeeper. He's going to be joining a committee I chair that we just launched called the St. Lawrence River Fish Health Subcommittee, as well as members of the Great Lakes Fish Health Network. We're having a joint meeting tomorrow. So I'm going to record this. Mark's going to be talking about the legal obligations of notification and maintaining fish health, habitat, and just making sure that the fish are respected, right? So what legal rights do fish have, and who's responsible for making sure those rights are enforced? Who's responsible for looking after fish and making sure they're safe to eat? Who's responsible for making sure we're not making their lives a living hell? So we're going to hopefully get some answers to this tomorrow, and then I'll be sharing that webinar in the future newsletter. So stay tuned for that. Should be interesting.
Sounds good, Lawrence. Well, as always, truly appreciate your time, dude. Keep up the great work as always, and hopefully we'll get to see you again at some point. I don't know about next weekend, but definitely at some point, because I know by then you're going to have a stack of news articles that I'm sure you're going to be chomping at the bit to get through.
Sounds good, buddy. Enjoy your weekend, man.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. We have Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor, and then there'll be a lead-in to fish handling and the importance of that, given by our good friend Jeff Gustafson. Stay tuned.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
All right, we got a nice lively walleye right here. Quick tip on how to hold the fish properly so you don't harm it, and also take a good picture. So a couple things when you grab them. It's okay to grab them around the gills, but don't get your hands inside of the actual red of the gills, just on the outside. Try to hold them horizontally. That's, the healthiest for the fish. A walleye like this, you can hold vertically. You're not, don't tilt anything. You're not going to hurt them. And then when you hold the fish for a picture, hold them out a bit. You don't have to hold it way out like this, but hold it out away from your body. It's going to look better. Try to hide your hands behind the fish, and you're going to get a good picture and a good memory on that fishing trip of a lifetime to Sunset Country.
Great stuff as always from our good buddy Jeff, and Jason Barnucz is with us. How you doing, J-Dog?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So put another few kilometers on the river today, counting fish. So
I do see you on the road again. Yep, and really appreciate it. Living the dream.
Yeah.
At least it's quiet. I don't know if that's a positive at all, but at least it's quiet.
It is quiet. The Sea Lamprey guys all went back up north, so it's quiet here tonight.
Now, did they share anything in regards to,
no,
nothing?
They were working like shift work, so they were working like at night while we were working during the day, and then I think our hours just didn't line up. So I knew that because I'd see different trucks at different times, so you could tell that they were doing some of this. I know, well, I don't know for sure, but from my experience with their crew, when they're doing an application, they're working round the clock. And so they're working like 8-hour shifts. So there's probably 3 shifts working at the same time out of the one hotel. So if I'm working like a 10-hour shift, I'll never see them, right? Because I'm coming and going in between. So all I know is that I would see the trucks change. I would just see them change. Now, what's cool is I saw 2 kayaks on top of the one truck. And I did some asking with some colleagues. And apparently, so in areas where there's not much flow to apply some of the chemical, they need a boat, right? So a kayak's like a perfect boat for a small river if you need to go into a small area, because it's light, you can throw it in. It was a smaller fishing kayak, like a 12-footer, so a lot smaller than what I have, but perfectly suited for a small river. So I sent a picture to Trevor Noah, and I'm like, boy, you boys need to go work for DFO in the Sioux. Get to work in a kayak. I'm sure they're not using the kayaks all day, but I'm sure it's one of their options if they need it. So it's pretty neat.
Now, we did have a couple people reach out that spent some time in a certain river, and I don't want to mention it, but if you are starting to see remnants of dead eels, or lampreys, I should say, not eels, dead lampreys, can we assume that they've looked after that area or sprayed that area, or no?
No, because a lot of times lamprey will die after they spawn. Now, not always, but they will. Okay. So, in fact, this spring when I was out trout fishing on opener, Trevor and I were fishing different parts of the same river, and he saw spawning lampreys. Actually, like in the motions of spawning. Now, these were native lampreys. These were the Northern Brook lampreys, American Brook lampreys. And they were spawning. He actually got a cool video. The ones I saw, there was 2, and they were like floating down the river, looked kind of injured. And I reached out to a colleague who has a little more experience in that sort of, because I'm not a cold water stream guy. Like, I fish them, but I don't know a lot about cold water, like true cold water fishes. And I reached out to a buddy, and he said it's quite often that, like, they don't die every year after they spawn. Like, they don't, like, it's not like a one and done, but a lot of them do. There's a high mortality after they spawn. So, and for native and for sea lamprey, that's what I've read. So I could be wrong on that, but it's not surprising because they would have just finished spawning. Like, it's June now, and they usually spawn in the spring. So it doesn't necessarily mean there was a treatment. It could, but they do pass away after spawning. So
good to know. I use that segue as not only a means of education and, of course, promoting our good buddy Jeff, but also a lead into the do's and don'ts of social media and posting stuff. And Jay, I know you and I want to spend a little bit of time on it, and I think I've got it figured out. I think I know what has broken social media, and I'll show it in these 2 pictures. Forgive me if everybody else has it figured out. The light just went on for me. So I saw this post going around. I didn't want to share where it came from. Did you see this, Jay?
No, I've not seen this one.
Okay, so for those who have seen it, it's a 57-inch giant muskie that has been hauled out of Georgian Bay. They tagged the angler that caught it. Again, we know muskie's not open. So someone would be, incriminating themselves by making this post, or somebody be incriminating the individual. But to take it one step further, it goes to show how a post can become viral in the blink of an eye. Yeah. As you can see, there has been over 2,100 impressions made, whether it be a like, love, hate, whatever, and it's been shared 94 times. Now, as I've shown with the arrows, and Jay, you're an expert at this, there are certain defining features on a muskie that right away they jump out at you, and you realize that it's quite possible this isn't a real fish. I'm not here to judge one way or the other. There are some certain features like the dimples and the pores underneath the chin, the angler, the way he's holding it via the gill plate. As Jeff just showed us, there is a right way and a wrong way. There's something to be said about this picture. And I'll leave it there, Jay, because I think you said it best before we went live on how to avoid being inundated with a whole bunch of criticism.
Yeah, like it's an angler's, I don't want to say right, but privilege to do what they want. But in that picture, like if you're going to share a picture of a fish, why are you picking that one? Like, why? Like I'm not saying I'm the best fish handler. I said backstage before the show, I dropped way more fish today than I want to talk about. I was having a bad day today handling fish. Now, a lot of the fish I'm handling are like 5 centimeters to 7 centimeters long, maybe up to 10 centimeters. And I'm just having flippy floppy hands, man. Like I'm trying to measure little fish on a board and a scale. But even we had a young lady out with us today who's with our communications program because she wanted to see what we were up to. She's never seen us like process fish like that. So that was all new to her. And I said, normally I don't drop this many fish. Today I'm just having a bad day. But I said, please don't share this with I don't want video. She was videoing us working, but I said, let's be careful because we don't want video getting into the wrong hands. And we're all careful as can be. But in that picture, now to get that, okay, so that angler wanted to get the fish in the boat, maybe for a proper picture.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably no other way to get that fish in the boat unless you're using a cradle, even a net. Like the net would be so deep, you would need probably 2 people to lift that net.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whoever has their finger on the shutter button here maybe could have put the camera down and helped this angler position this fish. This is a 2-person job to me. Like, Scottie, if this was your fish and I was your partner that day, I would probably have helped you get that fish in position, right? I'm trying to make myself look like I'm holding a muskie here. My arms aren't that big, Jim. I'm trying. But, I would try and get in position. And then I would get you, and you ready, Scottie? And then I'd step back and I'd take that picture, right? Why would you take that one picture? Fine, but why would you share it? Why would you share a picture like that? Now, in that picture, if anyone's handled fish before, you can put your hand up under the gills, but it becomes questionable to the point where in kayak events, you get penalized for this. So when you have your hand over that fish, and usually it's backwards on the camera here, but your pinky is usually right on the gill cover, right? Mm-hmm. It's quite common, I shouldn't say common, but very possible for your pinky, when that fish flops, the gill will open and your pinky will slide under the gill cover. If it looks like to the judges that your fingers are at all under that gill cover, your fish will be disqualified from a lot of contests. They will not allow that fish to enter. So it's important that after you take your photo, you got to check that. That's how picky, I'm explaining this because that's how picky people are about fish handling. And so that picture there is just the wrong picture to share. Like if you're just, the other pictures, and you don't have to show an example. We've all seen it. Like the mud trout, the mud pike, like just I drop fish too. I don't mean to do it. Take a minute. Wash the fish off. You know how many times my net is used not just to land fish, but to actually rinse some of the grass off of fish that I've had to land on the shore. And then I've actually used my net to wash it before I want to take a picture. Like just these little things, and it reduces such controversy. But it's all clickbait, Scottie. You saw the number of shares. It's frustrating to see how much attention a bad picture gets. And we've seen it where some even these are people who are friends of yours and friends of mine that share this stuff to their pages and to their YouTube channels or whatever, Instagram accounts, just to attract attention. It maybe not just to attract attention. They're trying to educate, but they're using it as clickbait, and it's frustrating.
It is. And, again, we've seen evidence of it on a regular basis. I'm just replying to Steve, who has brought up a great point. But I think this is why I'm saying I understand now that the internet's broken, and this isn't to point out this angler or to critical by any means. I just think that here it is. Very, it's a great fish, a fantastic size muskie, like
a monster,
a
like
lifetime fish.
And I would even say, like, I keep pausing because I keep going to full screen here so I can get a better look at it because I'm on my laptop. And I'm looking at, like, the angler there is not really hurting that fish too much. Like, I've handled a lot of fish in my time. Is it the best choice of sort of technique? Probably not. But that fish, the weight of that fish is still being supported on the gunnel of the boat. That he's just has his hand there directing the fish in, I'm assuming, into the boat. It looks like he's trying to bring it out of the net into the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think it's probably harming that fish too much, but it could. Like, if that fish starts to thrash, that's a problem. But fish that size, I haven't handled a lot of big muskies like that, but that size, usually by the time they're in the net, they're pretty tuckered out. Now, it also means that why are we bringing it in the boat? Maybe we should be releasing it boat side. So that's a different discussion, but it's not the worst picture, but it can be taken badly. So,
And that's exactly the point. And I guess
comments, yeah.
The reason I brought it up was because, of course, something like this is, and the number of comments, I think it's probably beyond 1,000 comments. And of course, just a full gamut. Same amount of time posted on our page, and you see the difference. Like, it's only got 11 comments, 11 shares. It's a wonderful fish that Dexter caught here, but it's, I figured it out, Jay. What is wrong with social media is we love negativity. We love the criticism. We love to get engaged with these kind of conflicts. And no,
it's so broken, right? Like, you think about, oh God, like all the edits that CFN does. And if those edits got 90 shares, the world would be a better place, at least for that day or two, right? Because this is all temporary. This will all be like, so you and I have talked about this, about how, like, the engagement rate, it just spikes and then it goes right down, like, bam. Yep. So and it's not about so much the engagement. You just want to make sure that as many people see your stuff as you can, but it's not about making money. It's not monetization. It's all about just spreading that message, right? It's about hitting that audience. And that within a couple of days of sharing something, probably within a week, everything just drops right off.
100%.
Now, if we could share, put that picture up of the smallmouth again.
Of the smallmouth or the muskie?
The smallmouth. I don't want to see that muskie anymore.
I don't have any of
the CFN. The CFN one.
Oh, I just erased it. I took it down. Sorry, Jay.
See, you already forgot about
it. I know. I'm sorry. I was going to. My apologies.
I was going to pump those tires, man. But
what I wanted to say, and this is what I truly loved, is the first comment that came up on, and I won't say the page that
from Keith. Yeah,
Keith Duster. Nice catch.
Love it,
man. Yeah. That's awesome. Whether he thought it was real or not, he just, know what? Cool, dude. Right on. That's the kind of positivity we love.
Because I don't think that angler really wants to hurt that muskie. There's no way. Like, there's no way they want to hurt that muskie. They're just enjoying their catch. Could have been done better, yeah, but there's no way that angler wants to hurt that muskie. And so Keith is right. Nice catch, dude. Like, virtual high five, man. Like,
amen.
But it's just, if it's your, if the angler, you might be like, man, like, that was a great. Next time, do you need me to want to borrow my cradle, or I got a bigger net, or whatever the case may be, right? But that's it. We've talked about this, where so many people will criticize how someone's holding a fish, it's out too far, or I don't know. Like, I know that we were making fun of.
Did you see Steve's post today?
The length of Steve's arms. It's fine. Like, dude, there's no bigger challenge as an angler. There's no bigger challenge as an angler than trying to take a picture of a trophy panfish when you're like 200 pounds and over. Like, there's nothing harder than. That's why that red ear sunfish from Lake Havasu, like that big one.
Yeah.
Dude, that photo is off the spectrum for bad because it's so far out. but who cares? Like even a 4-pound sunfish, you might as well show it off, like right to the camera. Like who gives a crap?
And as I
Like-
said before we went live, I now know why Steve is so dead set on driving around pickups. He needs to. If he's bringing home bluegill like that,
Oh yeah,
you're not going to.
yeah. He better check the capacity on those shocks, man. You might have to get
100%.
some risers in that baby. Carry that bull home.
So
There's
Adam, I'm sorry if this gets back to you. This was not a slight at you at all. This was simply.
No, Adam, congrats, man.
Absolutely.
Congrats on that
if
fish,
this is
buddy.
a fish that you actually caught, buddy, fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And we're here to do nothing but pat you on the back like Keith did.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we have the Pennsylvania record. My word, what a big fish. Now, show of hands. Anybody that's watching right now, show of hands. How many people think this fish is real? And I think this gets back to, Jay, what we were talking about.
Well, number one, Pennsylvania record walleye. Like I would think, I don't know, man. Lake Erie's got bigger walleye than that, for one. I'm just gonna put that right out there. Like I don't think it's a nice fish. I'm not knocking this gentleman. Nice fish. Like awesome job.
Yep.
But he something about the head on that fish, something about the it doesn't even look real. There's something odd to it.
It looks too much like a Xander to me.
Yeah. Well, and this is, and you could be right on that, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but
I don't know. You know what? Let me send me that picture later, and I'm going to do some diagnostic on it. Now that you got me motivated, I'm going to put on my fish biologist hat tonight after this, and I'm going to try and see if that's a Xander. I don't think I can tell the characters. There's some fin counts that I have to do, but I can't quite see it. But send it to me and let me.
This is a mix. There's a mix, and this is why I truly believe it's AI, because there's a mix of walleye and Xander within this fish.
Well, and I think that Fish Catcher here is just trying to get some clickbait to their website. So he could have said Kansas state record walleye, doesn't matter, right? Exactly. Like it just trying to get some attention to their social media. So
absolutely couldn't agree more. One last thing, and this is the last negative thing that we'll talk about. Jay, I don't know. You've been involved with a lot of tournaments. You've seen it, you've lived it, and I'm sure you've got stories that you're going to take to your grave. But as a fellow tournament organizer, fellow tournament angler, and someone that truly loves the positivity in our community, in our industry, when you see stuff like this, it just shakes your
frost. And I found a fish basket that has some really big fish in it. So I'm going to let them go.
And let them go, report it to the authorities. Like we can go through the whole list of things on what to do. The fact that it's being done, like guys and gals, we don't need to do this.
No,
we're just ruining it for everybody.
That video, if you listen to the full length of it, I think the angler who found it even talked about like the next tournament that's coming up is only like the first place prize is like a few $100s. Like it's like nothing. It was nothing. It was like bragging rights. Like why risk it? Why risk the chance just for what? For a couple $100? I want to tell anglers out there, you know, and either they're hearing this tonight or they listen to this on a replay in the future, but it's so important to, when you find something like this, and we've learned this lesson, leave it where you find it. Take photos of it, document where it is, contact M&R, tips line, like even just take a pin on Google Maps and send that pin to yourself or to a friend so that you can just quickly share that in a text message. And then let that be, because if you retrieve it, it's going to be hard to prove whose it was. And we've seen this before. Like this isn't me making this up. This is something we've seen before where someone found cages, and it's happened before, not just one time. Someone found cages in the heat of the moment. They retrieved the cages, but we never found out who truly belonged to the cages because the cages were retrieved. What that angler did is the right thing by letting it go back. Yes, the bass are in the cage. Yes, that's a problem. But the bigger issue is catching the person who's violating our Fish and Game Acts, right? So big problem.
True enough. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I've done enough negative stuff. I've thrown enough mud against the wall. Jay, let's talk something cool. What have you got upcoming? What do you got up? What do you got planned?
Man. Well, dude, I just found out yesterday from my lovely wife that this weekend's Father's Day.
Woohoo!
I didn't even realize the last couple of years, Father's Day has been on Bass Opener and like for zone 17 and 18. And I've gone north the last couple of years, and I'm usually coming home on Sunday night tired because I've been fishing for 2 days, and I have to put on my happy father hat and be happy for Father's Day, which I'm grateful for. But I don't have to share Father's Day with Bass Opener, nor does my family. So everyone's kind of excited about this. So wow. I guess because June 1st was on a Monday this year, or on a Sunday. So yeah, dude, we are at the third Sunday in June coming up. So because usually Father's Day is around the 20th or 21st, not the 14th or whatever it is, 15th. So happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, and stepdads and grandfathers and great-grandfathers and dads to be. So it's not bass season yet. I've already told all my friends that I've fished for trout this spring. I fished for bluegill. I've done, and I just want to go bass fishing. So this weekend, I'm on the road a lot. So my bass fishing is going to start to get very busy, because if I want to squeeze in bass fishing with all of my everything else. So I can tell you this right now, Scottie, this weekend, I'm probably going to spend time with the family. I'm going to get all my fishing gear ready, because the weekend after is Bass Opener in the Kawarthas. On the Saturday is the Ontario Kayak Bass Trail opening day tournament on the Tri-Lakes, and I'm going. Now, unfortunately, Trevor can't go. It's right in the middle of his exams. It's right in exam 0. He's in grade 12. It's kind of a critical time. So Dad's going solo. I'm going solo up to the Tri-Lakes. I'm probably going to sleep in the van, dude. I'm going to go like Brandon Palaniuk, like Cooper Gallant. I'm sleeping in the van. And I might just go up for the day. Like, I'm not even going to go look. I'm just going to go drive up the night before, camp at the roadside in the van, pull the sleeping bag out, wake up and go fishing and hope for the best. I love these bass opening day tournaments because the playing field is so level for everybody, unless someone's been out pre-fishing, which there shouldn't be. So it's great. Yeah. I'm going to go fish an area of Tri-Lakes that I've been wanting to fish the last couple of years, and I used to fish it actually when I was in university. And I'm like, screw it, I'm going to go fish this area, and I haven't been there in 20 years. I'm going to go try it. So, dude, I'm just preparing, but I'm so busy right now with work that I need to plan my weekends around getting my stuff ready. So
to help you along with that,
yeah,
let's discuss, if you are a bass connoisseur, and I know, there's a few people like Steve and what have you that are going to get a little bit closer to the screen listening to this. Based on weather, based on water temps, based on water levels, if you were to enjoy Bass Opener like you're going to enjoy it, where do you think you would have the greatest success? Further south or further north?
Ooh. So it depends on the lake and the water and the sort of the size of the lake. So, for example, like last year, so like Lake Erie, where my home waters are, it's huge, right? Even the Interbay Long Point, unless you're back in the canals or the coves, it takes a long time to warm up. Some of those Kawartha lakes warm up faster than Lake Erie, right? So it's going to depend on, now I would like to know what the water temperatures are before I get up there. Just if I knew that, that'd be fantastic. And I have ways of finding that out. Just so I kind of know where fish are going to be at. We are behind. Everything's behind this year. So yeah, like other, oh geez, I'm trying to think of, I wish I would have brought it tonight. There's a, like we're way behind in our water temperatures this year. Right. So yeah, I'm curious where everyone else is going to be at. Bass will be on beds. It's going to be a bed fishing thing. Not saying where I'm going is be bed fishing. I think the water is going to be too turbid and too weedy to really see them well on beds. I hope they're not fry garters. I hate fishing for fry garters because the females aren't in the mood because they just left, and the males are so focused on guarding fry that they'll take your bait, but they're not the quality fish you're looking for. So that's kind of a transition period I hope we don't get into. And I fished tournaments like that on opening day before. But I'm not sure where we're going to be at. I think that the smaller Central Ontario lakes, like I know Steve likes to fish Rice Lake in that area a lot. I think it's going to be spawning central when we hit it. I'm going to bet the water temps there now it's been warm the last little bit. They're probably in the 60s right now. And so the bass are probably just starting to spawn, or just thinking about it, or just in the motions of it. So
George is sharing with us.
Yeah.
Up his way. They're pre-spawn to spawning. So the opener is going to be great. I would, absolutely. And for that reason, George, this is why I was asking Jay, to be productive, to see the quality of fish. Where do you go? Do you go where they've likely spawned, or it's all over down here to the south? Or do you head a little bit further north to a back lake, or perhaps Lake Nipissing, and see if you can crush them on?
I think everything's heating up so quick right now that you're going to see from Lake Erie to Algonquin Park, everything's going to be in the spawn, or either it's going to be like pre-spawn, spawn, or post-spawn, like in that tight window. Like in the northern latitudes where we are, that window happens over a few weeks. Like we're talking 6 weeks, pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. So so 63 Fahrenheit, that's amazing, because when I was up in the West Arm a month ago, it was 63 degrees. Yeah. That's how cool it's been. So everything just like slowed right down. Right now, those areas I was in was shallow, and they could be a little warmer now, but everything just kind of stalled. Now we're really getting right.
Barnucz water temp was 70.
Yeah, the West Arm and Nipissing got up into the 70s right before like 69, 70, right before the May long weekend. So so bass were spawning like 65 for the largemouth is kind of like a sweet spot. Like depends. Like some of them will get going a little earlier, some will hold off, but 65 is that sweet spot. And so 70, we're in but we're only 2 weeks away, right? They're going to be guarded. They're going to be on beds when we get right to opener. So
100%. Some great discussion as always, folks. Really appreciate that. Any last things, Jade, that you wanted to mention before we leave for tonight?
Nope. Just, hey guys, bass season is 2 weeks away. Steve, get going, get organizing your stuff. I know you're a last minute guy. Get on it. Stop going to all those rugby matches. Although I do love all the rugby content, because if I can't, no, I'm just all joking aside. I love the stuff that Steve shares, especially his daughter playing rugby. Man, I miss that sport so much. I wish I could beat the crap out of some guy right now too on rugby pitch. I really do. There was no better therapy than rugby. I'm telling you, it was so good to just beat up on guys and then have a beer with them after the game. I miss that sport. So I love vicariously. And a friend of ours, their daughter plays rugby too, and I love it. And it's funny because the two rugby people I follow, Steve's daughter and Alexis, and Revi, and they're girls. I love it, and they're tough as nails. Right on. I wish Stephanie would play rugby, but she won't. So rugby matches, I love it, but that's going to keep me busy until we get down to bass season. Once bass season opens, I'm checking out. Like that is, dude, that's when the train pulls out of the station. I can't wait. I'm saving. I did yard work all weekend, buddy. I got to keep water in the marital well, okay? Because once bass season starts, there's going to be, this year especially, things are going to dry up fast. I'm telling you right now. Heather already knows it. She's like, I'm not going to see you until Labor Day. I said, I know. It's just going to be gone.
That's too funny. Well, listen, you're chomping at the bit like a lot of us, especially those who love their bass. Jay, thanks so much for all you do behind the scenes and, of course, with us. Your time is truly appreciated, my
Thanks,
friend.
buddy. Great show. And happy Father's Day in advance. And we'll see you next week, buddy.
We'll try. I'm hoping, Jay, we'll have an episode next Monday. I just don't know when I'm getting home. That's the only thing. So I'll keep
if we miss it, then it'll be dude, I'll have to do a post-tournament follow-up after that big Tri-Lakes event.
Right on, brother. Well, you
All
take
right.
care of yourself. Enjoy, okay?
See you, buddy.
All the best. So that is the end of our show. Thanks so much for all of you for joining us each and every Monday. Get out and enjoy some incredible fishing this coming weekend, as I will, and also go Oilers, go. At the end of the day, this has become more than just a hockey game and a Stanley Cup series. It has become a passion beyond words. If you want to see great hockey, watch this series, take this series, make sure you go back and watch every minute of it. It is phenomenal hockey. Have yourselves a great week. I'm going to enjoy mine. If we see each other next Monday, great. If not, it's because I have not gotten home yet, and I'll be enjoying the French River. Another place you can enjoy the French River is, of course, Camp McIntosh. So I will leave you with this and bid you all farewell. Love you all. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful week. Peace.
And there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.